How invisible can we be using a basic tarp, two types of camo netting, and finally, a good dose of leaves? If we find ourselves a nice clearing in the woodland, we can firstly set up our tarp. I'm using a DD Hammock Superlight 3 by 2.9 meter tarp, but I'm folding it in half so that it's much smaller. And that does mean it's harder to pull it really tight, which you'll see later in this video does become a little bit of an issue when we start adding huge amounts of leaves and sticks to the disguise. So here we are, just a nice simple lean-to setup. We've pegged the base into the ground and then we've just propped up the two corners with my trekking poles. Nice simple stuff, nothing fancy, and as you can see, it's not the worst. It's not obnoxiously brightly coloured or anything like that, but it is also very clearly visible and very clearly a big rectangular, unnatural shape in the natural, uneven curviness of the woodland. As we add camouflage, I'll repeat these shots so that we can see the tarp from different angles and distances and hopefully an ever less visible outline. I just want to point this out that even using the basic tarp, when the sun comes out, as the light dapples through the leaves and trees, it does add this natural sunlight camouflage pattern, which of course helps to break up that obvious shape. Sorry about pulling faces here, I was just trying to get a thumbnail image for the video. So this is the listing off Amazon, which I bought these bits of camo netting from, and as you can see, previously, just before spring and all the greenery came back, I've used some of it to great effect. It's really lightweight. I'm going to attach it to the top end of my tarp with these little clips. Even though these are quite lightweight, as you saw, at less than 300 grams for a 1.5 by 3 meter strip, adding two of them to the tarp, you can see immediately started to make it sag, although maybe the very soft ground wasn't ideal for this. However, I decided to simply add a stick from the ground and another bit of cordage and a peg to the centre of it, and that went a long way to solving my problem. So what patterns are we using? Well, the darker and more green looking one on the right hand side is simply called 5 colour woodland, and the lighter, more brown looking one on the left hand side is even more simply called brown camo, and that's according to the Amazon listing that I showed you earlier. I will leave some Amazon associate links to these so you can have a look at them yourself. If you buy through my Amazon links, I will get a commission, so hopefully that's a nice, simple, easy way that you can support these videos if you did want something like this. So yeah, you can see instantly, just taking a couple of seconds to fit those, has immediately started to break up the shape of that very obvious, very plain rectangle that we had. So which is the best colour in this condition? Well, I think that looking at it through foliage here, the green side is really well blended. However, I honestly think that it depends on how much the sun was shining. I wouldn't say that either of them are going to particularly catch your eye. They're definitely both doing a good job of just blending in more than the plain tarp on its own. However, when I was there in person and getting these shots, I honestly think that as the sun shone stronger or weaker, I could almost visibly see them changing in their visibility. We did have a lovely friendly robin pop by for a quick nose at what we were doing, and probably great disappointment when he realised there was no food on offer. So that's what it looks like with just the camo netting. Not bad, but we've got a huge amount of loose leaf litter on the ground here. Let's use this camo netting as a bit of a cheese grater that's just going to give us a lot of nooks and crannies that's going to hold a lot of leaf litter on it. So it's definitely time for a time lapse, I think. Now this process was as simple as it looks. I just grabbed handfuls of leaf litter and quickly threw them on. The only thing that I wish I'd done differently here is that I'd added more of my little bulldog clips or binder clips to the top section of the tarp, just so it made it easier to get the leaves to stay right up on that top edge. You can see I did end up using bits of stick and just all sorts of little bodges to try and keep the leaves at the top so that it didn't have just a plain green line across there. Anyway, as you can see, it's as simple a process as you can imagine. I just threw leaves on it. Lovely stuff. I didn't realise I spent so much time messing around with that top line. So here you can see, especially with the sun shining unevenly across the vista here, it definitely is a step up in camouflage from the camo netting, and of course massively improves on just the plain tarp beneath it all. And again, looking through foliage at it from a distance, there's no way that would catch your eye. And in fact, I'd say even looking at it here from the zoomed out normal phone camera perspective, it's actually very difficult to see and be exactly precise in what part of it is and isn't the tarp shelter in disguise, as opposed to just the woodland floor. So I was really pleased with the way this came together. I've played around with camouflage on a few occasions, but this was the first time that I went out just purely for the joy of experimenting with it and seeing what the different camo types look like with different amounts of leaves on them and so on. And really, it's just a fun thing to do for an hour in the woodlands, just to be outside enjoying nature. And it's also something that when I'm out stealth camping, it's such a lightweight bit of kit to add some very easily compressible camo netting into your backpack that it's just another element of fun that you can add to a stealth camp. You can see here though, between the extra weight of those leaves and sticks and the fact it's not just a small tarp stretched outright, it's a big tarp doubled over and then attempted to be stretched outright. It was definitely way saggier than I would want it to be in an ideal world. However, I would also say if I was using this properly for disguising myself out on a stealth camp, I would have set my trekking poles a lot lower so that the open end would have been a lot lower to the ground and therefore even less visible because there wouldn't be quite such a big upright visible side for people to see. So, to summarise, this of course has genuine real world uses in terms of concealment. It's also just a bit of a fun activity to add to the camping experience and spending time outdoors. And when it's largely held together by the cheap and cheerful camo netting that I've got, it's not a particularly high barrier to entry to just go out and play around with this sort of stuff. So I suppose I will say thank you very much for watching this video. Please do consider subscribing, liking the video, and generally checking out all of my other stealth camping adventures and tutorials and reviews. And if you really want to help me out, please consider becoming a PayPal supporter, a Facebook subscriber, a channel member, a super thanker, like some of my recent supporters. Melissa L, Dogs, Rob, Kaz G, Kevin Y, Jackie A, George B, Fake W, Art V, L Hughes, Steve B, John B, Sean B, BL Beach, Dawn H, A Sanford, T Seymour, and David D. Thank you very much, everybody. Without you, this sort of stuff simply would not be happening. Until the next time, keep it interesting, keep it concealment worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.